My name is Cheryl Peterson, and I'm doing this video for religion classes or anyone else who would like to hear about Christian Science. I am a student of Christian Science, which basically means I study Mary Baker Eddy's textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. Before I go on, I would like to just make one point. First of all, I'm going to read her definition for Christian Science. The term Christian Science was introduced by the author, Mary Baker Eddy, to designate the scientific system of divine healing. That's it. It is a scientific system of divine healing. So what I'm not going to talk about is the church that Mary Baker Eddy started years after her book was written, published, and being read by the public. The church is governed by the church manual. But I'm not going to talk about that, just like if you're in college, you're not going to talk about the college or your classmates. You would discuss the subject you're studying. And I study Christian Science. It's helped me a lot, in fact, quite profoundly. And so the last 7 years I spent researching and revising Mary Baker Eddy's book. So I have 21st century science and health now. This has updated terminology, it has the latest discoveries in technology, in medical improvements, and in biblical research. It's just like your textbooks in school, which are updated too. Mrs. Eddy just coined the term Christian Science back in the 19th century for this system of mind healing. She realized that people forever have been tapping into the power of mind in order to advance ourselves and advance humanity. But Mary Baker Eddy wrote, the physical healing of Christian Science results now, as in Jesus' time, from the operation of divine principle, which is another definition for God that she gave. But she acknowledged that Christ Jesus was the master metaphysician. He gave proof, and that's why she connected the word science to health, is because there is empirical knowledge going on here. There's observation, there's experimentation, there's evidence. Christ Jesus gave evidence that there is a healing God. Goes to the next point that she realized it's a step-by-step process, and that's she was patient with herself. And she expects students like us, we can be patient with ourselves and realize it's just a step-by-step, a progressive movement forward in our ability to use mind to overcome limitations or barriers or fears. She wrote in Science and Health, the recognition of spirit and of infinity does not come all at once, but throughout eternity. Haba no haba, a Swahili phrase for little by little or step by step, has relevance. And probably an example I can give you is back in 1998, let me get these are my hospital records, pretty thick. But in 1998, I was in a really bad accident. I was operating a front-end loader that blew up in flames. And so I was trapped in the cab with fire all around me. There was one little opening above the door. I did jump out of the door over the moving tires and crash landed on the gravel. It was scary, but I felt a calming thought, and I do attribute this calm thought to my background and what I've learned about Christian Science, and just knowing that there is a supreme being, one that is in control, even though everything in the world can tell us not. So anyway, I was picked up by somebody else because I was pretty much unconscious, and I was taken down to the emergency room. They took x-rays, and the biggest problem was I had a fatally bleeding liver. So the doctor went to get a surgeon. And in that time, I was regaining consciousness, and I automatically started doing what Christian Science has taught me, is that you work from the standpoint of a paradigm that begins with a whole being, with health and holiness and harmony, where they're in control and that we have the ability to reflect that forward. Instead of the chaotic messy scene that was presented to all my physical senses and to everybody around me. Well, by the time the surgeon came on the scene, he looked at the monitors. I was hooked up to a lot of monitors, and he realized I was stabilizing. And so he said, well, I'll just keep watching the monitors, and we'll just go step by step, which I was grateful for, because doctors are realizing the power of mind. They're recognizing the value of spirituality and people practicing spirituality. Now, to keep the story short, basically I did not need that liver surgery. But then the next item was more serious then, is that I had second-degree burns on half of my face filled with gravel, because when I crashed on my road. So the nurses would come and they would try to wash out the gravel. Now, this is when I noticed pain, but they always stopped right before I couldn't handle it anymore. The surgeon would come in and ask me, do you need a pain reliever? And I'd think, and I'd go, no, I guess I'm okay. Well, the third time he asked me, I'm thinking, what am I supposed to say? And finally, it occurred to me to just tell him, I don't feel pain, I don't feel unconscious, I feel healing. That's when I noticed he was relieved. And it took me a little while to put it together because I was sort of preoccupied with my own problems, I guess. But that's something Christian Science teaches too, is that it really is helpful to be aware of the mental environment around you. That surgeon hurt looking at me. I mean, it was a few days later before I realized how bad I looked. You can just picture it. I mean, I'm banged up. I couldn't use my arm. I had fractured sinuses. My eye was blown up to heck. He even thought that it needed a surgery too later on, which it didn't, and I'm thankful for that. But then the burns all over and the gravel meshed into it, and he did not want me to hurt. And so he, of course, would ask me if I wanted pain relief. He wasn't going to push it because he knows there's side effects to pain relievers, and I did not need any more problems. And so when he realized I was feeling healing, he was relieved. That actually gave a boost to the environment, I feel like. It gave a forward thought motion to more healing. Well, I was only there in the hospital for about 3 days. I went home and my husband had to take care of me for about a week. He's not one of those husbands that give you a lot of sympathy. He's very compassionate though, but complaining just is out of the question basically. And he would give me my crocheting or something to do. I mean, I had a good arm, use it, right? And so in 3 weeks, I was snowmobiling. Now, as impressed as I was with this healing, I do remember it wasn't all easy. I'm grateful for what I learned in Christian Science, but I remember it felt like hell sometimes. I'm not kidding, it felt like hell on earth. And I remembered what Christ Jesus taught about how heaven was on earth. Sometimes we think heaven's like a locality or something, or you go there after we die. But boy, just because hell felt so real to me at that time, it all made sense to me. Hell or heaven, they're like a state of mind. It's something we can create in our thought. So I decided, I think I'm going to listen to Christ Jesus on this one and try to feel and experience and understand heaven on earth. And it did. It took me a little while. It was step by step. But I am thankful for that lesson because it also taught me that, things are a state of thought, a state of mind, which, that's actually a good way to sum this up, is there's 2 foundational principles that I learned in Christian Science. One is life in and of spirit, or all is infinite mind and its infinite manifestation.